again, I want you to share as much as you feel possible, so we don't need to get into details. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what happens for you in the workplace that you feel like are misconceptions or misgivings that maybe your colleagues or the structure or system doesn't really account for in you being a working mother, or in particular for you, Ayanna, for being a single working mother. Like, where's the tension in the workplace around this?
Well, for me, I'm really happy that I have working in women's gender sexuality studies. It for the most part, it feels very supportive. And that's not always the case. Just because it is named whatever it is doesn't always mean that equals, what it, it's not always doing what it should be doing, but I feel support. In terms of kind of tension, I think that it's just simple as people don't understand the workload if you are a single mom, and they just don't understand. And I think that there's two components. There's the kind of meaning of what it means to raise, for me specifically, to raise a Black boy. Mm-hmm. The emotional energy that it involves is a lot. Is to raise a boy, to raise a child of color, raise a Black child. That energy, it's not. I can't quantify it, and so sometimes I find myself being frustrated, and I have to make sure that I'm speaking to someone who really gets it. And I found the tension for me is that sometimes maybe a colleague or a friend, can get me in so many ways, but they may not get all those intersections of what it means to, they can get me as a mother, they can get me as a, maybe a single mom, but you may not get the class part, you may not get the race part, but the complexities, all that, there's certain safe spaces that I've found, such as our kind of support group, where it feels really good to be all myself. And I remember you said something, Nikki, I forget what you said, and maybe you can remind, but you said something, you always say something about, I refuse to, compress my multitudes or all my selves or something.
What I always say is I refuse to not have the right to show up as my full and complete self. You got to take all parts of me.
Yes. I love that. I love that so much. Every time you say that, it just resonates with me, So I think that kind of multitudes, for me, I always say the multitudes is me. I don't want to kind of be compacted into this kind of single layer. The multitudes are so important. And I think one other kind of part is I come, this is a kind of, my background is really arts and kind of the kind of creative kind of spheres. And I have a lot of friends who are presenting, work and having exhibitions and events, and also a lot of activist friends who are out there in the community doing things. And I think the tension within those kind of circles are that I used to be able to be a lot more active, and I have to say no more. And what that can translate to is being unsupportive or selfish. And so that has nothing, that's not necessarily where the kind of race or anything. That's just kind of going back to that time. That time and pacing, and me really, they don't understand. Many of them don't have children, or if they have kids, they may not be a single mom. And so they really don't understand the complexity of, worlds that I'm in, and how important it is for me to kind of say no to protect myself and my energy and my child, and just preserve that joy. So I think that that's kind of where the kind of different points of tension kind of lie for me.
Yeah, I really also like that that idea of showing up as your full self. I mean, there's no way that we can't, and to suppress any part of it. But sometimes in the academic world, it does feel like you have to suppress that aspect of it, right? Especially being, and I think this is where, one of the things, the reason you're a good reason to focus on women in particular, I don't think men necessarily have that same complexity, right? Where even if you're a single dad, I mean, even that's adorable, right?
Right.
And you
get lauded, right? Like, oh my God, he's a single dad.
You're out with your kids, or you've got to take your kids to work, and it's like, oh, that's so cute. You're bringing your kids to work, Whereas for us, it's like, okay, here she is not giving 100%, and so. For me, I think it's the misconception has been that I'm available all the time, and along those lines that I'm willing to sacrifice my family time, because I think that there are a lot of women in academia, and again, no judgment, but there are, and I've had many mentors who have sacrificed that aspect of their life. They've made I won't say sacrifice, but who've made a choice and decided it's their career, right? And they're not having families. And so there is this expectation, I think, in academia that you will do the same, that you, even if you do have a family, that you're going to put your work first. And for me, it's not like that. It's always been very clear for me from the very beginning, from the moment I decided to have a child, that is my primary, that is the most important thing to me. And so, everything that I'm going to do, and everything that I'm going to do in my career life is going to be bent around the goals and hopes and dreams that I have for my family life and for my role in, as you were saying, Ayanna, in raising this child and being present for this child. So, it's sometimes, and I think, and again, I shouldn't say sacrifice, because it is a choice. There's a lot of things that I have let go of as an academic, sacrifices that I've made, and maybe rising the ladder I don't regret, right? Yeah. Because I don't regret missing a conference here and there. I don't regret missing a talk, every week at 7:00 at night or something like that. Mm-hmm. I know that I'm sacrificing maybe making deeper connections with colleagues and all these other things that, will grow your career, but the other things are more important to me and more valuable to me. And that's not something, I think that's something that I think more recently I've been more open about, that wasn't always very open about, for fear of, how, repercussions, I think. I had a mentor once that told me, you can have all of these, ideas about life and about, your family life being more important than your work, but you don't ever want to say those out loud, right? You want to be careful. Mm-hmm. You want to be careful who you say those things to. And I was on the market at the time, and, they said the people that the people in academia, your mentors, other faculty, they need to think that you're 100% committed to this and only this. So if anything, that's what you need to let people believe. And so for a long time, this was a part of me that I didn't always share with others. But, as you said, we can't compress these aspects of ourselves. And it becomes more visible, right, once you join a faculty and, you spend more time in one place. Eventually people start to see, and you have to explain your routines. I'm in a really odd situation, I think, where in my department nobody has children. I think 2 people have older children, and so they're not used to having somebody who has small children around, which could potentially be very, very difficult, but has actually, I'm actually very lucky that people have been very understanding, and so a lot of the faculty, these older faculty, they're perfectly happy taking later classes and allowing me sort of to take the morning shifts, and nobody really creates any ruckus about it. So in that sense, I haven't really, had any pushback. But a lot of internalized too, right? In terms of do we feel really free to set these limits openly for ourselves?
Yeah. I connect with both of you all in different ways around that piece. In the sense that I really liked, I'd originally thought about specifically talking about this part, but I figured it would come up organically. But I really liked, Ayanna, you sharing this role of like being a Black parent to a Black child, and particularly a Black boy. And my daughter is bi-ethnic. You know, her dad is Mexican American, and trying to attend to her understanding herself as a racial and ethnic being, and how people perceive her, how I want her to perceive herself, because of how she physically looks. A lot of times she's exoticized in places and spaces we go, and so me trying to monitor that or protect her in that, like there's a different emotional labor that comes along with parenting a child of color. That cannot be quantified, but is very real and is present with us a lot. Like it's not, and I you know, there's a playground that we like to go to here in Houston. It's situated in a pretty affluent neighborhood, and oftentimes she's one of two maybe children of color there, and so there's the playground anxiety of like, is somebody gonna either ostracize my child or exclude my child based on race, and how to manage that and navigate that, and so there's all those pieces, and how to navigate interacting with the school in different ways. Right. For her, that I think doesn't come up for white working mothers, and so there is a different layer there for us, and I think that's why these relationships that I have with you and a couple other folks have been really important in like normalizing and affirming my experience. Like, like, no, you're not crazy. And that's real. The thing for me, I think when work has been, I came across this quote. I don't know who this person is, but the quote is attributed to Annabelle Crabb. And the quote is, "The obligation for working mothers is a very precise one. The feeling that one ought to work as if one did not have children, while raising one's children as if one did not have a job." Yeah. And that like so resonated with my experience as an academic mom, as an academic single mom. And I even have colleagues that that might be a single parent, but my experience is unique in that I don't have shared custody, and I'm also not embedded in a geographic location where I have like blood relatives here. And so we have chosen family, and I'm so grateful for the social support that I do have surrounding me. Asha, literally, I couldn't be doing it without these people that have decided that they love us and care for us enough to step up and actually be physically present when we need. But that quote so resonated for me because there is an expectation. Like it's like people will ask at work, "Oh, how's Asha? And how old is she now? And kindergarten and all of that, like, oh, she's adorable, sort of stuff." But then it's almost as if that's all she is, right? She's a cute kindergartner that exists in some objective alternative universe that has no impact on my work productivity whatsoever. And I struggle around being self-compassionate enough to recognize like these are real, tangible taxes on me, on my psychological well-being, on my physical well-being, on my cognitive capacity to produce in a rigorous kind of scholarship context. They're real. And I still have these demands on me, right? And I really struggle to find balance in that space of saying, no, I don't want to sit down and write for an hour at 10 o'clock at night. Like at 10 o'clock, I'm done with the day because I got to be up at 6 to get her ready and da-da-da-da. Yeah, and so my productivity and my contribution to the space, it's going to look different. Right. And maybe that's short term. And, but the other thing about kids is you never know what's coming around the corner. Right. So it may be in the short term and it might change when she's, preteen or middle school. I don't know. But for right now, it feels constantly like this I don't even know what the word is. It's not even a dance, because a dance sounds too fun, but sometimes it's this like hurdle race, right? Of like, what's coming up around the corner now?